Hi, Namaste. Hello everyone. I'm Pankaj Singh Thakur from India. Right now, I'm about to review a particular movie. Before that, this is a brief introduction about me. I'm a movie reviewer, writer, author, painter, artist, part time actor, analyst, lawyer. Yes, I'm a legal professional, and at the same time, I'm much more. I'm about to review about a movie which is very popular and extraordinary. The movie is Oppenheimer. Yes, Oppenheimer is by far one of the finest movies that has uh, come from the uh, team led by Mr. Christopher Nolan. First of all, congrats to him for the success of his movie, for the kind of satisfaction it has brought to the entire cast and crew, and of course, the money. Congrats to all of you. You have done well, and I'm about to review the movie for you as well as the global audience. The movie is primarily based on the life of a very famous and renowned nuclear scientist or theoretical physicist, Mr. Julius Robert Oppenheimer. Mr. Robert Oppenheimer was the leader of the Manhattan Project, and the Manhattan Project is basically associated with the uh, making of the atom bombs which were used during the Second World War, particularly on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The movie is about nuclear technology. The movie is basically about the life of Mr. Oppenheimer as well as his thought process, his dilemma, his opinions, his changing opinions, and several other events which happened during his lifetime. And it is about the events and happenings hap- which were there uh, around Oppenheimer, but he was not aware of it. There were several conspiracies involved. The movie touches almost all of them with few flaws. Mostly the movie is all right. And here, first of all, actually, I will take you through the movie in a step manner as per the different topics. But at the same time, some background is necessary. My methodology of doing this review is little complicated. I have referred to different books, different source materials, internet, different literature, different research papers, different news items, old records. I have my research papers in front of me. I have my notes. I have, above all, the holy Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is the or one of the or the holiest scripture or text for Hindus or Sanatanis and other devotees of different faiths in India and across the globe. The book is extremely revered and respected by Hindus and other individuals who understand the importance of the particular book. We'll come back to the book. It is definitely important because of its association with Mr. Oppenheimer, with its association with the uh, book American Prometheus, on which the movie is based, and at the same time, the movie is also related to the particular book. Unfortunately, a controversy has happened because of the use or misuse of the Holy Scripture. When we touch the book, when we think about the book, we always do like this. We means all devotees, all religious people who respect the book. When we see it or touch it, we do like this. It is definitely of enormous proportions. It is an epic, and we respect it. For Mr. Oppenheimer, the book was extremely important. He was a very learned man. He had read the particular book. He was a linguist. He was interested in different languages. He tried to learn different languages. He made sure that he knew more and more. And he was particularly fascinated with Sanskrit and the literature available in India, and the literature which told a lot about the Indian civilization. We'll come back to the movie once again. Now, the movie has a background. We have to see the background. We have to discuss about it before we come back to the movie. The movie is based on the nuclear bombings of 1945. In August 1945, the twin cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, and there was enormous amount of death and destruction in Japan. The movie is also based on the nuclear holocaust or anxiety. The movie is also based on the quest for nuclear disarmament. The movie is also based on Mr. Oppenheimer's life, his challenges, his analysis of the success of his team in making the bomb, and at the same time, the aftermath. The movie is about the politics which was going on. The movie is about the defense-related decisions which were taken at the time of Second World War. The movie is very big, actually. The movie is basically based on the life of the father of the atomic bomb. Mr. Oppenheimer was very famous at the time of the Second World War. Already, he was renowned because of his work in theoretical physics, and the movie is dealing with basically complex uh, parameters and the fundamentals of physics, maths, and other technologies. The subjects and technology are something which can be dealt with or taken up in a separate platform or occasion. Uh, Here we have to understand about the nuclear explosion, which is actually devastating for whoever is at the receiving end. The nuclear bombing takes place because of the nuclear reaction. The nuclear reaction happens because of fission, which is a reaction. The fission actually the fish there is fission and there is fission plus fusion. There are two reactions. When there's a nucleus, which is the subatomic component of any atom. The When two nucleuses, or sorry, the nuclei, they are technically called nuclei. The nuclei collide. They form one or more nuclei, or they are also called nucleides. So basically, there is a chain reaction. The chain reaction causes explosions. There is another form of nuclear reaction that when one or more nuclei collide, uh, when there is a particular nucleus, when it is bombarded with external subatomic particle, the one or more nucleides are formed. The collision causes several nucleides to be formed. They in turn collide with other nuclei, and the chain reaction continues. It goes on, it goes on. It can destroy the atmosphere until and unless the explosion has a limited reach. You can think of the consequences of the explosion. The explosion caused enormous death and destruction in Japan, and extreme guilt, and extreme suffering and hurt, pain. The pain was felt by the people of Japan as well as the people across the globe who have and feel humanity. The movie and its background is based on that. So, continuing with the background of the movie is about the life of Mr. Oppenheimer. The movie is basically based on the book American Prometheus. The full name of the movie of the book of 2005 is American Prometheus: The Truth and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer. It is a 2005 biography of theoretical physicist Julius Robert Oppenheimer, who was the leader of the Manhattan Project and also the leader or the scientist who had built and managed actually the Los Alamos laboratory in the New Mexico desert of United States. The entire facility was built for making the atomic bomb. They were basically trying to find out about a more uh, better way to win the war. The uh, the project was carried out because of the uh, anxiety and the anticipation to uh, deal with the rising Nazis and the rising Japanese armies and their allies. It was it was a very dangerous war. It was a very destructive war, and the uh, powers which were together were United States, United Kingdom, Soviet Union, and others. Today, the world is in a different state, but at the time of the Second World War, all these powers were together. The book American Prometheus is basically an extraordinary Pulitzer Prize winning book. It's in the category of biography or autobiography. Mr. Oppenheimer was not really uh, present during the writing of the book, but he was definitely a source of inspiration. The movie was written by Mr. Kai Bird and Mr. Martin J. Sherwin. Mr. Kai Bird and Mr. Martin J. Sherwin uh, worked on the movie for about 25 years. The movie won several awards. The movie was basically written between 1979 and 1985. Interviews were conducted with 112 persons, and these were people who were in Mr. Oppenheimer's orbit or somehow associated with him and his family and his friends, of course. His close friend, Mr. Hakon Chevalier, was helpful in the writing of the book. His son, Mr. Oppenheimer's son, Mr. Peter, uh, and a few other individuals were helpful and involved in the writing of the book. They gave interviews, some 50,000 pages of interviews, transcripts, letters, diaries, declassified documents, and FBI dossiers uh, were used. They were gathered and used in the writing of the book. It is basically a compilation of all these things. They were synchronized and arranged in a very systematic manner. The book is definitely very, very good and definitely readable. The book is definitely not free from flaws, Some of the gaps still exist. Because of that, the movie has been affected. Some of the research topics which were going on, which were there at the time of the Manhattan Project, were ignored. Some of the events and their context was ignored. But mostly the book is all right. The book is basically a good compilation of a renowned scientist's life, his thought process, and the other events. Mr. Oppenheimer was a conflicted man. He was definitely filled with different thoughts and choices. He was a renowned scientist already. He was a theoretical physicist, and he was associated with several universities like the University of California in Berkeley, and he was also associated with the Institute for Advanced Study, Princeton, which is in New Jersey, and he was basically related to the New Mexico desert, his uh, place, his native place, and he was basically uh, always thinking about doing something in New Mexico, and that he did actually with a bang. He actually caused a very big explosion and sound. So this is about the book. The book covers many things, but at the same time, the book gives a different perspective to whoever is thinking about the nuclear proliferation, the background, the World War II, and the future, present and future of the humanity. This is, I think, the initial discussion. Now, one by one, I will take you to the different aspects of the movie. First of all, we will deal with this topic, the production and the production values. It's phenomenal. It's extraordinary. No stone has been left unturned by the makers and the production companies to uh, make the movie in a proper manner, in to present the scenes in a proper manner. There's no compromise. They have, even if they have adjusted, uh, even if there were challenging situations, they have made it very well. There is uh, some uh, issue regarding the VFX and the CGI technology. I mean, uh, the makers have avoided CGI and relied on VFX. The production has been done by Syncopy Incorporated and Atlas Entertainment. Syncopy and Incorporated is a company of Mr. Christopher Nolan, the writer and director, and his wife, Mrs. Emma Thomas. The studio which is behind finance and distribution is Universal. It needs no introduction. It's just amazing. And the production budget is of $100 million, which is huge. And an equal amount of uh, money was used for marketing. The marketing budget is very huge. It was very well publicized, and the result is for everyone to see. Now we come to the next aspect, which is writing and screenplay. Mr. Christopher Edward Nolan needs no introduction. He is just a legend. We are blessed to be in his time, and we are blessed to see his movies. He's amazing. I'm a huge fan. I have seen many of his movies, and I know about his craft. And he is very good in writing as well. Direction. is definitely extraordinary, but at the same time, he writes well. The If you see the credits very carefully, the movie says that it has been written for the screen and directed by Mr. Christopher Nolan. That's true. He has written the movie for the screen. He has understood and adopted the particular book, American Prometheus. He has tried to delve into the life of Mr. Oppenheimer, and after that, he has written the movie. It has been written well. The script is extraordinary, and the first script written by Mr. Christopher Nolan is in the first person, as he wanted the narrative to be conveyed from Oppenheimer's perspective. The movie is very layered. From the point of view of Mr. Oppenheimer, the movie has been told, and uh, the scenes shift from Mr. Oppenheimer's perspective to the perspective of other individuals. It has a subjective and an objective perspective. Mr. Oppenheimer's responses to the long term consequences of his actions are central to the writing of the movie. The screenplay in particular, alternates between scenes in color and black and white to convey the story from both subjective and objective perspective. The subjective perspective is of Mr. Oppenheimer. You'll feel what Mr. Oppenheimer felt or must have felt. The objective perspective is of some different character or person, particularly the Atomic Energy Commission chairman, Mr. Lewis Strauss. Mr. Lewis Strauss has been played by Mr. Robert Downey Jr. We know him as the Iron Man. He's done well. You will not feel that you are in front of Mr. Iron Man. There's no Iron Man. He is just uh, gone into the skin of the character. The Mr. Lewis Strauss has been played very well by Mr. Robert Downey Jr. He is a very good actor. He has established that, and the subjective and objective perspective are necessary for the movie, as we can see. Mr. Christopher Nolan has a very unique style of telling the story. The movie shifts from one particular subjective point of view to the objective point of view. The shift in color is very clear, and it helps the viewer. It is complicated, definitely. It's a very complicated way of storytelling, but at the same time, the intelligent viewer uh, understands. It is well accepted. There are visions of Oppenheimer's conceptions of the quantum world and waves of energy. He uh, or Mr. Oppenheimer goes into a sleepy state or subconscious or dull state to experience different dreams and visions. The visions tell him about the quantum world. There are waves of energy. That happens with, I guess, all the important scientists. They uh, do a lot. They work on formulae. They work on different theories. They work on the practical experiences. The theories and practical experiences, they feel about the consequences. They calculate the consequences. So they think a lot. Their brain is always under pressure. So they have visions. I guess it happens with all the extraordinary scientists. Mr. Oppenheimer was renowned. He he came much after Mr. Albert Einstein, who has a godlike stature in the scientific world, and for the enthusiasts who admire and follow him. So there are portions in which Mr. Oppenheimer's interactions with Mr. Albert Einstein have been shown, and all those scenes are just fascinating, and spellbinding. As a viewer, I feel very good. It is it is a very um, extraordinary experience to see and feel about Mr. Albert Einstein and Mr. Oppenheimer. Mr. Albert Einstein, in particular, has been a very important contributor or the propounder of the famous formula E is equal to mc square and the theory of relativity. His role cannot be ignored in the development of scientific knowledge in the last and current century. And Mr. Oppenheimer discussed with Mr. Albert Einstein, and there was a discussion about science as well as other spiritual and philosophical uh, discourses and the consequences. As a viewer, as a thinking viewer, you think about their confusions and their exchange of dialogue. So the writing is amazing. So on the basis of the writing, the direction has been done. So we come back to the next topic, which is very very important: direction and style of directing. Mr. Christopher Edward Nolan is the director, and he's just fantastic. He's done very well, and I've already dealt with his uh, work, style, his style of writing uh, is definitely instrumental, but at the same time, his director well. The movie has been shot by using a combination of IMAX 65 and 65 large format film. It is one of the original and most important parameter or the method of making any movie. It is IMAX 65 and 65 large format film. Mr. Nolan is definitely different from other directors. He has his own unique style of directing. The movie takes you to the subjective and the objective perspective. The scene shift basically. On the one hand, there is a mm, very cheerful and light scene. In the after some time, after few minutes, you come to a very serious scientific discussion. In the third scene, you will suddenly go to a political discussion or the uh, political meeting, and suddenly the scene shifts to a very heated argument between the characters. Suddenly the movie comes back to peace. Suddenly the movie comes back to the sense of exploding bombs, the background noises, the torn bodies. There are different scenes. Some and in certain scenes there is peace. In certain scenes there is a dialogue between the scientists. So in certain scenes there is some introspective discussion between the scientists like Mr. Albert Einstein and Mr. Oppenheimer. It is an extraordinary way of directing. Although it is complicated, but it's very fascinating. The movie does not bore. It's very long. It's nearly of 3 hours. It requires patience, but at the same time, it's very good and definitely one of the finest works of Mr. Christopher Nolan and his team. Definitely, the cast and crew deserve credit, applause. Congrats to all of you for doing so well, making the movie so nicely, for doing well, for doing extraordinary business, for gaining a personal satisfaction after the success of the movie. And I'm congratulating you for the money earned. Of course, money is important. And I hope that all of you continue to entertain and educate people in a similar manner. Good wishes from me. So the movie basically takes you to different locations. The movie has been actually shot on the locations of the Los Alamos laboratory, which was instrumental for making the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project was started by the US government during the Second World War because of anxiety and uh, because of the challenges which were being faced by US. The Nazis were rising, they were causing extraordinary damage to all these uh, powers, United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and other Western powers. There was some desperation to build a better weapon of mass destruction. The atomic energy before 1945 was developing, but it was at a nascent stage. It was not fully formed. The consequences were not known. The world was confused. I mean, how it has to be done, what should be done, what will happen, what will be the kind of damage. The movie has extraordinarily captured a very important theme. As I've told you before, that there is always a chain reaction. There's a collision, uh, different nuclei go into different directions. They again cause collisions. Uh, Again, collision happens. There is a chain reaction which spreads during the bombing. Whenever there is a nuclear reaction, fission or fusion, the explosion happens. Uh, the chain reaction happens. The chain reaction has to have some end. If there is no end, it will destroy the entire atmosphere. The movie again and again says or shows the concern that the atmosphere will be destroyed because of the nuclear chain reaction or the atomic reaction. It is very important. As a viewer, one is challenged and fascinated because of all these dialogues. The concern of the scientists is always felt by any average viewer. The real explosions have been used in the movie. This is again about the direction of Mr. Nolan. He deserves credit. VFX has been used in a minimal form. The real explosions have been used. The VFX technology has been used to um, uh, give a proper shape to the event and the scene. The team actually built an atomic bomb. This is not really a nuclear bomb. It's an actual bomb. The explosion has been shown. And it was done in a smaller, containable form. Mm, the explosion was fueled by petroleum instead of atomic energy. That's right. You cannot actually use atomic technology or the nuclear technology. The explosions have been shown that they have been somehow uh, made presentable by the VFX technology. Mr. Christopher Nolan and his editing team and his ADs have done very well here. There is a forced perspective. By making a smaller version of the explosion, they have shown the explosions. There is a smaller version of the explosion. It's called force perspective. How it is forced? Now I will tell you. The explosion has been shown, but uh, filming it up close, this optical illusion tricks the viewer into thinking the reaction is larger than it really is. An illusion has been used. Suppose there is an explosion. Uh, Here, suppose there is an explosion like this. The camera angle has been used in such a manner that the viewer feels that the explosion is really huge, and somehow the visual effects have been used to properly decorate the particular scene, if I can use the term. It is a forced perspective. It is not really a normal perspective you are forced to imagine. There's an illusion. I hope you can understand. And that is the direction style of Mr. Nolan. We have done his extraordinary work in the form of Memento, The Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, Tenet, and many other movies. He is just brilliant. Mr. Nolan definitely deserves an applause for the kind of work he has done. He's a very good maker of scientific movies. He's a very good maker of thrillers. He I think he deals with all the genres very well, and uh, I mean it's not easy to describe him in few words and sentences. There is one issue with the direction. There is some inadequacy related to the dialogues. You can't hear some of the dialogues very clearly. It's definitely felt by most of the viewers. It happened with his previous movies also, particularly Tenet. The Basically, um, there is a method called ADR, which is mm, uh, which is used by movie makers. But here the director has very cleverly retained the original dialogue delivery of the actors. The What happens is during the movie, where actually there is a particular scene which is shot, the particular actor has to utter the or say the same dialogue later on in the studio, and that particular dialogue delivery is audible, and that is used in the particular scene. The Mr. Nolan has avoided that. The second effort has been avoided. The actors have um, uh, emoted. They have the particular emotion has been used. The emotion of the moment. Mr. Nolan has used the emotions of the actors and the dialogue delivery during the particular filming for the original final product. That is amazing. This is definitely a cause of concern, but it's not very problematic. So the inadequate dialogue delivery has been uh, important, but not so disturbing. Overall, the direction is very good, extraordinary. He has done well. Mr. Nolan has shifted his camera angle from two different locations. There are several close-up shots. There are long-range shots. The explosion has been shown sufficiently. It's not really an action movie. It's definitely not an action movie, but at the same time, it shows different scenes and uh, different problems from close up as well as from a distance. And the music is very supportive. The background score is supportive. We'll come back to it. And at the same time, the editing has been instrumental. Everything is a collaborative, collective effort. You can see the final product and understand. Now we come back to the next topic, which is cinematography. It's amazing. The cinematography is amazing. The credit goes to Mr. Hoyte von Hoytema. Mr. Hoyte von Hoytema is a renowned name in cinematography. He has worked on many movies. With Mr. Nolan, he has worked on Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet. So you can understand the kind of work he has done is phenomenal. The scenes have been shot so beautifully. He has um used the correct texture, and he has used the correct colors, and he has used the correct camera angles. I mean, the cinematography is definitely about landscape and scenes, but it's not just that. It requires technical finesse. It requires support to the director. Mr. Nolan has been well supported in cinematography department. Now we come back to the other section, the editing. Editing is very important. For any good movie, editing is very important. The credit goes to Miss Jennifer Lane. Miss Jennifer Lame is another extraordinary name. She's young and she's worked on movies like Tenet and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Wow, she's very good in editing. I mean, the movie would not have been possible without a proper editing. It is extraordinary, and the editing has edited or cut the unwanted portions. It has stitched together proper scenes to give you a very coherent plot and show. So hats off. The editing is very good. It is a 3 hour long movie. Could have been or would have been cut to a shorter version, but I think the length is all right for any involved or average viewer or a fan of Mr. Nolan and his team. The product is very good and satisfactory. Thank you for that. Now we come back to the next topic, which is acting. Yes, the actors are amazing, extraordinary. All of them are renowned names. I mean, it's an ensemble cast. It's an ensemble cast. Definitely, the you from the beginning of the movie to its end, you see different famous names and celebrities. You see different famous actors, beginning with the protagonist, the lead actor, Mr. Cillian Murphy. Mr. Cillian Murphy has been associated with Mr. Nolan for a very, very long time. On the Dark Knight trilogy, he had worked. He had worked on other movies too, and he went to different lengths to become Mr. Robert Oppenheimer. He ate in a very controlled manner, became thin. He captured the mannerism of Mr. Oppenheimer, and he worked very hard. Even Mr. Robert Downey Jr. has praised him, and he's said that Mr. Cillian Murphy is the mm, best and the only actor I have seen throughout my career who has been extraordinarily dedicated towards a particular role. I think the praise is well deserved. Mr. Cillian Murphy is there. Mrs. Emily Blunt is there, and she has acted very well. Mr. Matt Damon is there. We have seen him in The Martian. We have seen in the Jason Bourne trilogy, and he's just very good as a U.S. Army general. Mr. Downey Jr. Is extraordinary. Mm, and there is Miss Florence Pugh, and she is a very good actress. In some of the scenes, she is nude. The scene has been censored or checked in many countries, but overall, her acting has been very good. She has supported well, and some of the controversies were there regarding the scenes of Miss Florence Pugh. But at the same time, her character of a communist lady was very important in the particular movie. She challenged Mr. Oppenheimer's thought process, and she was a lover of Mr. Oppenheimer. I mean, the role she has played is of a lady who was a lover of Mr. Oppenheimer. And there is Josh Hartnett. He is very smart and handsome, and he's a very good actor. Mr. Josh Hartnett plays a particular scientist, and he's just amazing in the particular role. Mr. Casey Affleck is there. Mr. Rami Malek is there, and he has done very well. His acting is very good. We have seen him as a villain in the last James Bond movie, and there is Mr. Kenneth Branagh as a famous scientist. There is Mr. Tom Conti as the legendary Mr. Albert Einstein. Mr. Tom Conti is there, and he's just a very good actor. He's amazing. So there are many other actors. These were the famous names. There are many other actors, and you will be astonished with the kind of queue which is there throughout the show. It was very good to see all of them together. Now we come to the background score and the music. The background and score and the music is very good. It's phenomenal. The credit goes to Mr. Ludwig Emil Thomas Goranson. Mr. Emil Mr. Ludwig Emil Thomas Goranson is a very famous name in Hollywood. He is a master craftsman, I would say. He uh, makes the tunes so well, from soft to hard to semi-soft to uh, terrifying to pleasing to other forms. The music shifts from one to another, and it's amazing. His work is very good. Mr. Ludwig Göransson has worked in movies like Black Panther, which won the and for the particular movie he won the Academy Award for Best Original Score. The second movie was Mr. The second movie of Mr. Goranson was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. For the particular song "Lift Me Up," he was nominated in the Academy Award uh, show for Best Original Song. He was nominated once again. He had worked on the movie Venom. He had worked on Tenet. For yeah, I hope you can remember about the extraordinarily spellbinding music of Tenet. Here in Oppenheimer, Mr. Ludwig Emil Thomas Goranson has been very phenomenal. His music has been spellbinding. It is very soulful. It is where the music and the background score are soul touching. They're amazing. The entire original soundtrack is very good. You should have it. Hats off. Thank you so much. And now we come to the other topic, comments on the plot. There is no spoiler here. Don't worry. I'll not share the plot or the story. The movie shows different um, layers of time and structure. Mr. Nolan likes to play with time and structure in all of his movies. He has a unique style of storytelling. The plot shifts to the past, to the present, to the past, to the present once again, here and there. There are three, four layers. There is introspection of Mr. Oppenheimer at the same time. The past or the background is taken care of, and then in a particular section, you're shown a very young Oppenheimer as a student, as a very immature person. He does several things. They have been shown. The mature Oppenheimer has been shown. The If you remember movies like Interstellar, uh, Tenet, and a few other previous movies of Mr. Nolan, he is different. He has shown different layers of time, uh, and he has not hesitated to use scientific concepts. There are different structures in the plot, and there are different timelines. The different timelines, as you can see, they help the narrative. The plot basically is about Mr. Romeo Oppenheimer's education, his rise in the scientific community, his uh, achievements before the making of the nuclear bomb, and the uh, leadership role of Mr. Oppenheimer for the Manhattan Project, the success of the Manhattan Project, the position that he got after the successful bombing, end of the World War was important. Mr. Oppenheimer was mm, very good in the particular success, but at the same time, the success was disastrous for other people, for another part of the world. There was turmoil and there were challenges regarding Mr. Oppenheimer's thought process, and that has been shown. The Mr. Oppenheimer is extraordinary, uh, and the movie takes you to uh, different stages of his life. The plot is basically related to the plot is related to uh, the plot is basically related to the work of Mr. Oppenheimer, his achievements, the awards and accolades that followed, the extraordinary discussions between the scientists, their challenges, turmoil, etc., etc., so on and so forth. The political challenges, the controversies, the facilities and privileges which were taken away from Mr. Oppenheimer, and so on. The there is a communist angle as well as there was some distrust between the um, American democratic ideals and the communist ideals. Uh, there were a few conspiracy theories. Different things happen. Uh, how Mr. Oppenheimer was taken down. Later on, slowly, gradually, he rose to some extent. Was able to gain some respect. Was able to build some legacy, and so on. The plot is extraordinary. If you see, you will be spellbound. It's amazing. It's fascinating. As a viewer, I'm satisfied. Thank you so much. And we'll come back to the other topic, but at the same time, I'll tell you my son, Master Neeraj, is here. So I'll request him to wait for some time. I'm doing a movie review. Thank you so much, beta. Thanks for waiting. Now, I'll take you to some of the important people who were involved in the writing and the storytelling. There are many scientists in the story. There are several names. All of them are extraordinary. There are genius people, and there are basically physicists who have been involved in the writing and the movie. There was Mr. Patrick Blackett, Mr. Niels Bohr, Mr. Warner Heisenberg, Mr. Edward Teller, Mr. Isidore Isaac Rabi, Mr. Enrico Fermi, Mr. David L. Hill, and there was the one and only Mr. Albert Einstein. Wow, 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 wow. There were so many scientists in the movie, and they were shown very nicely. One extraordinary aspect of the movie is that the actors who have played the particular characters of the scientists and other people have a striking resemblance to the original people. If you keep the photograph of the original person or the actual person on one hand, on the other hand, you will notice that the actor has been uh, almost similar to the particular actor. It is not just about the makeup. It is not just about the decorative work or cosmetic work that has been done. It is all about the similarity. The actors have been chosen in such a way that they are similar. Mr. Robert Downey Jr. Has been very similar to Mr. Strauss, and Mr. Tom Conti has the looks of Mr. Albert Einstein. Mr. Cillian Murphy himself looks very much like Mr. Oppenheimer. So that is an extraordinary achievement of the casting team, the casting director, the director Mr. Nolan, and rest of the cast and crew. It's amazing. I mean, hats off to you. You have matched all the characters and people so well. Keep it up. So those were the scientists. There are so many names. There are other names. All of them deserve credit. Amazing. There are certain errors in the movie. There are errors in the movie. There are few, not many. There are few. There are few factual distortions which have crept in the movie. The distortions are uh, in a way little obvious. Some are deliberate, and I'll take you to some of them. There was an accomplishment of nuclear fission which has been incorrectly shown in the movie. The events of nuclear fission, the research before the making of the atom bomb, uh, had a different story and events, slightly different, but they were not taken care of properly. They have been shown in a different way. The theories and the practicals have been twisted a bit for making the movie watchable. There is Mr. Strauss, who was the in charge of the particular commission. He was Mr. Strauss was played by Mr. Robert Downey Jr. He was a very complex and very accomplished person with a strong humanistic streak. The movie has made him villainous. The movie shows that Mr. Strauss is uh, helpful. At the same time, there is some negativity to him. I'm not taking you to the plot, but the character of Mr. Strauss has been shown little incorrectly. He was a very complex and accomplished person, and there was some humanistic streak. He was one of the few major players to try to have the US take action to avert the Holocaust in the 1930s, and virtually alone among those near the top to advocate that the first atomic bomb used in the war not be dropped on a city, but in a demonstration to the Japanese on an uninhabited island instead. This is important. The bombing was terrible. It was just terrible for the people who suffered, the people who died, but at the same time, for the people who survived. The consequences were uh, very difficult to describe. They were horrible. And you can understand that. And Mr. Strauss was, as per the historical records, uh, instrumental in suggesting that the bomb should be displayed, not actually used. It should be used in an uninhabited island near Japan to show to the Japanese and to the other opposing powers that these consequences will follow if you don't stop the assault and don't end the war. The movie has twisted the particular character, but otherwise, it's a very good presentation of Mr. Strauss. There was a poisoned apple scene. There was a scene in which very young and immature Mr. Oppenheimer poisons uh, a particular apple which was about to be consumed by a very renowned scientist that was now nowhere properly and historically mentioned. I have read some of the records. Mr. Oppenheimer's grandson has protested against the depiction of the particular poisoning scene. And there is no historical certainty on the incident. Please accept this fact. The scene has been placed for purely for entertainment purposes and for some thought process. And there is a controversial scene involving the depiction of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the use of the verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the holy book, which is revered by all of us, the devotees. The context of the use of Gita is not right. There is an enormous amount of blasphemy in the particular scene. The scene basically, to tell you in short, the scene involves Mr. Cillian Murphy's character and Miss Florence Pugh's character um uh, in an intimate position. They are not clothed properly, and this Florence Pugh's character is basically a communist. She gets involved in the romantic relationship with Mr. Cillian Murphy's character, Oppenheimer's character. The the lady lover uh, asks and demands Mr. Oppenheimer uh, to uh, read Bhagavad Gita. The scene actually involves a particular library of Mr. Oppenheimer. The library has books of different languages and uh, genres, different patterns, different disciplines. The books are different. Uh, the as a curious person or as even a communist, uh, the lady who is on top of, who's sitting on the top of Mr. Oppenheimer, uh, picks the Srimad Bhagavad Gita scripture or the book, uh, and shows the particular book to Mr. Oppenheimer. She keeps it in front of her bare chest, and shows the book. The scene has been, the name of the book has been blurred, but at the same time, it's clear that the book is the Holy Gita. When Mr. Oppenheimer responds to her question by saying that uh, um, a book shows that Lord Vishnu took a huge and multi-headed and multi-armed form in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and starts telling the uh, truth, uh, and tries to um, give education to uh, Arjuna, the warrior. He starts like that, but she stops him. She says, "No, no, no. Read the actual and original thing." So Mr. Oppenheimer in the movie starts reading the Sanskrit text, and uh, gives an explanation of it. The scene, the scene is basically, dealing with a paraphrase version of the original text. Just one moment. Yes. Now, the controversy is regarding the intimate scene and the use of the Holy Gita. The scene deals with the 11th chapter and the 32nd verse, which is used in the movie. Mr. Oppenheimer precisely says, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." There's a particular dilemma in the mind of Mr. Oppenheimer, and that has been shown in the movie. It, the particular verse is a paraphrase version. Paraphrasing is a very uh, short form of presenting something in a very understandable form. This is the holy Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Krishna. We always hold it or see it with extreme reverence and respect. It is one of the epics for Hindus or Sanatanis and other devotees of other faiths and other well-wishers. For all educated and civilized people, this is a basic guide for life and death and other aspects of human existence. So the actual actual verse is like this. The Sanskrit um, form is there. Sanskrit verse or shloka is there. It is called shlok. But at the same time, I am reading the actual word by word translation. The blessed Lord says, Gita is basically the song or the voice of God. The God Himself speaks to the devotees and the creatures and to life itself. The blessed Lord said, I am the mighty world destroying time, now engaged in destroying the worlds. Even without you, none of the warriors arrayed in hostile armies shall live. So, the Gita or the Lord says that I am the mighty world destroying time. It is known as Kal. Kal is end, death, the time. As you know, the time covers everything. The destroyer of the world is Lord Himself or the God. The Lord is basically addressing uh, Arjuna, the warrior, who is under some confusion. He is attacks, under extreme turmoil and confusion in his head. He's facing his relatives and friends, people loved by him, and he has to attack them. He has to use arrows and other weapons on them, and he knows that the consequences will be uh, hurtful or fatal for all these enemies who are actually his relatives, friends, and other people loved by him or known to him. So he's conflicted. Uh, the Lord, or Lord Krishna, uh, resolves the particular dilemma when Arjuna requests Lord Krishna, his Sarthi, or the person uh, driving his chariot, to guide him during those moments. So the Lord says that even if you don't attack these enemies, I am Kal, I am death itself. And even if you don't do anything, even if you don't do karma or your deed, even if you don't do what is required or expected of you or expected from you, I will do the needful, because I am inevitable. The Lord, the God is inevitable, and the events will unfold. Whatever consequence has to follow has to. There is a cycle of karma. Everyone does something, does the deeds, and the consequences follow. There are there are rewards and punishments. The person gets freed. He or she attains moksha, or does not attend moksha at all, come back to the cycle of life. The cycle of life and death goes on. The cycle of karma goes on. The Gita deals with all of them. The Gita is a portion of the holy epic Mahabharata. There are several texts in Indian mythology and spirituality. Uh, these are all of them. I will tell you. There are four Vedas, there are 16 Brahmanas, there are four Aranyakas, there are 108 Upanishads, there are six Vedangas, which are portions of Vedas. There are five Vedas, there are 36 Puranas, Puran, it is also called Puran. There are six Darshanas, there are 18 Smritis, there are two Itihasas, or epics or history. The epics are the most revered and the holiest of them all, Ramayana, or Ramayana, or the story of Bhagwan Sri Ram and his life and his family. And the another epic is Mahabharata. The there are Mahabharata has 200,000 verses, and Mahabharata as well as Bhagavad Gita are 7,000 years old. On the 11th day of the Hindu calendar month, the Gita was recited. Uh, there are 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. There are 700 shlokas or verses or couplets in it, covered in chapter number 23 and 23 to 40 of the epic Mahabharata. It's enormous. There is a, there is a very long and extraordinary uh, discussion behind it and related to it. The particular verse which has been misused, unfortunately, unfortunately misused by Mr. Nolan and his team, uh, is related to the chapter 11, verse number 32. As I've told you about the idea behind the verse, the verse has been used in the wrong context. Mr. Oppenheimer never used the particular verse uh, during sexual intercourse. He never used. There is no historical record to it. It is basically a product of the writing and the directing team. The scene is incorrectly shown. The controversy is genuine. It's real. Billions of Hindus and other devotees have been offended. Mr. Nolan and his team must take full responsibility for the unnecessary and uncalled for assault on the faiths and beliefs, uh, on the love and respect that has been showered on them over the years. It is an unnecessary assault on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It will not be affected, but you will face the consequences as per your karma. It's not right to use any religious text in a wrong or incorrect context, and particularly when the Hindus or Sanatanis are so tolerant and so peaceful. You know that entire world knows that Sanatanis and Hindus do not hurt anyone. They do not hurt even the smallest or the tiniest of the creatures. They do not utter anything blasphemous or disrespectful against anyone. They do not attack anyone. Hindus or Indians have never conquered or invaded any territory. No civilization has been affected by Indians and Hindus or Sanatanis. Please understand, Mr. Nolan and team, you have done a terrible blasphemy. It's not right. It's wrong, absolutely wrong. And you must take the corrective measures. You have done the damage. Billions, lakhs of people have seen the movie. This particular scene has been seen, considered, read about. So the damage has been done. You should have been very, very careful. Next time, be very careful. For the particular movie Oppenheimer, you have to do the correction. And it's your moral responsibility. If you want to bring your fans closer to you, if you want to bring your well-wishers closer to you, if you want to bring me closer to you, then you have to carry out the correction. Simply blurring the scene is not enough. Simply doing cosmetic changes is not enough. You cannot even touch any religious text like this. uh, you have done it, you have dared to do it with the holy Srimad Bhagavad Gita, but can you do the same with the Holy Bible or Quran? Can you challenge the Christians and the Muslims? Can you do the same? Even if you have a justification, can you show it? Can you do it? No, you cannot do it. It's not right. You know that it's not right, and you know about the consequences. You know about the punishments. Bible has a certain death sentence for whoever does blasphemy. Regarding Quran and Islam, everyone knows what happens. Beheading is the simplest and the most normal punishment for Muslims and Islam. Particularly for blasphemy, they will do it. Sar Tan Se Juda is their uh, motto. You know that you cannot take the liberty. You cannot be so flexible and casual. In the particular movie, you have shown Florence Pugh, who is nude, holding Bhagavad Gita, and then there is a recitation of the verse, and you have a justification that you are trying to show Mr. Oppenheimer in a very conflicted mindset. You are trying to show that he is enjoying, at the same time he is in a scientific dilemma. He's troubled, he's disturbed, so and so. But you cannot take the liberty in such a manner with any other scripture or text of any other faith. You have done it because Hindus and Sanatinis are tolerant. We are tolerant. And it's just, we can punish you, we can do several things. We can take up law in our hands. We can do several things. There are legal measures as well. But you should not have brought the things to this stage. Please understand that. All makers, all filmmakers and writers must understand that you cannot do blasphemy like this. I'll take you to the context in which Mr. Oppenheimer used the scene, the particular verse. Mr. Oppenheimer had first quoted Gita's paraphrase version in 1949 for the magazine Life. In 1949, almost 4 years after the bombing, he had used the verse to convey his thought process or the feelings during the testing of the atom bomb on the particular laboratory of the Manhattan Project. 20 years after the attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, Oppenheimer appeared in a 1965 NBC News documentary called The Decision to Drop the Bomb. We knew the world would not be the same, he said on screen. During the NBC documentary, he reflected on the events. He said, "We knew the world would not be the same." Yes, it never was the same after the bombing. The world changed, the power pattern changed, the power politics changed, different things change. The America or the US was the sole superpower. There was a Cold War and everything else, you know. A few people laughed, he said. A few people laughed, a few people cried as the bombing happened. A few people laughed, a few people cried, most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince, Arjun, that he should do his duty, and to impress him, takes on his multi armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Quote unquote. I suppose we all thought that one way or another. That's what Mr. Oppenheimer said. He said during a particular interview to a magazine and then to a news documentary platform. The thoughts are real. His thoughts are real. He was definitely conflicted as per the historical records during the testing, during the pre-testing stage, during his debates with the scientists. He had a moral dilemma, definitely, and he basically thought that he is uh, creating something which will eventually destroy the world, and he somehow thought that he became like God or Lord. And because of his knowledge of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the particular verse came to his mind. But then Mr. Oppenheimer is not God or Lord. He was not God or Lord. He uh, used a particular paraphrase version. Paraphrasing, as per the Oxford Dictionary, means to express what someone has said or written using different words, especially in order to make it easier to understand. The exact verse was not used. Even if the paraphrase version was used, is blasphemy. It's not right. You cannot misuse a particular quote or event. So please understand that the viewers are advised to use their wisdom, judgment, and rationale and civilizational values in order to understand the context of the movie, the depiction in the movie. Even if they see the scene, they should protest. They should not take it on face value. Please understand, someone was hurt, someone was offended. It should not be done. So this was about blasphemy, and basically flaws apart. Overall, the movie is extraordinary and of epic proportions. It's definitely very, very big. Uh, Thumbs up to the makers, the cast and crew. The overall, it's definitely a must-watch with protest, of course, and at the same time, it helps you or provokes you to think. So think, please. Please think about the holy text. Please think about the nuclear technology. Please think about nuclear proliferation. Please think about the consequences of the weaponization of nuclear technology. Please save yourselves. Please save your children. Please save your generations. Please save civilizations and humanities. Please bring peace to the world. The motive of everyone, the scientists, the writers, and the movie makers, the cast and crew, everyone has been to bring peace and harmony in the world, and it is the common objective of civilized people. So please carry it forward. The movie shows a conflicted Robert Oppenheimer, and it has been presented very well. The events have been shown in a very nice and smart manner. Much of the 3 hour biopic is rooted in verifiable facts. The facts are mostly verifiable. I have checked the records, some of the historical facts. I have referred to some of the books, internet itself, some of the transcripts, etc. The facts are verifiable. Some of them have not been presented very well. The scientific discussions and the practical experiments have been shown incorrectly in certain portions. Mostly it is all right. Theory of relativity has been discussed. The Mr. Albert Einstein was approached. He had few discussions with Oppenheimer, uh, his junior, but at the same time, Mr. Einstein was not involved in the making of the atom bomb, and he was a very respectable figure. He has been a very respectable figure for all of us, science enthusiasts and other individuals. And he has rightly refused to be involved. He had attained old age when Mr. Oppenheimer became very active. Now, one there is an actual fact when and then the movie also is shown. Mr. Oppenheimer once was facing a question, a comment that Mr. Albert Einstein is the greatest scientist of this century or his time or this time. The comment was Mr. Albert Einstein is the greatest scientist of this time. As a response, Mr. Oppenheimer said, "No, he was the greatest scientist of his time." His time means Mr. Einstein's time. So there was some amount of arrogance in Mr. Oppenheimer. He was definitely uh, a little bit arrogant, which was okay. It was acceptable for someone who is so successful, but at the same time, uh, it's not really nice. Mr. Albert Einstein always deserves respect. Without him, the scientific advancements of atomic technology would not have reached to this stage, and so the other scientific advancements would not have happened. The movie is largely historically accurate, setting the atmosphere on fire during the Trinity test was a real fear. That during the Trinity test, everyone was or did not know about the consequences of atomic explosions in the chain reaction. So it has been shown, the fear has been shown properly. A few historical or factual distortions creep in, which is not nice. Please avoid all these distortions in the future. So that was overall about the movie. The movie has been done very well. The direction is good. The making is good. The effect or the impact is very good. I'll tell you one thing. I have actually read Mr. Oppenheimer's farewell speech. This is a copy of that. Mr. Oppenheimer's farewell speech was given uh, on November 2, 1945, uh, after the bombings. And the records of the Atomic Heritage Foundation contain the entire speech, the entire farewell speech, word by word. I have read the speech, I have underlined and highlighted it. There are several portions. You can understand the psyche of Mr. Oppenheimer, and Mr. Nolan and team should also note all these comments. Uh, uh, Mr. Oppenheimer never apologized for the bombings. He never apologized, but at the same time, there was some amount of guilt and disturbance in his mind. He expressed different things. As a scientist, he felt responsible. There are different portions which have been shown. I've noticed that he expressed great concern. He said that he expressed that atomic technology is a basic necessity for the scientific community. He was addressing scientists. There was a large gathering of scientists, and he was addressing them. He said it was definitely necessary to build atomic technology and to build a, bomb. Uh, uh, I mean, he had dealt with different points of view. There was he definitely said there. He said, I think some people were motivated by curiosity, and rightly so, and some by a sense of adventure, and rightly so. So, because of curiosity and adventure, they built the bomb, and they were directed to do so. That was another reason. Uh, uh, the monstrosity has been highlighted. To stop war is definitely a contest. To stopping, they tried to stop the war in by building the bomb. That has been correctly displayed in the movie. And he said, Mr. Oppenheimer actually said during the farewell speech, finally, I think rightly, there was probably no place in the world where the development of atomic weapons would have a better chance of leading to a reasonable solution and a smaller chance of leading to disaster than within the United States. I believe all these things that people said are true, and I think I said them all myself at one time or another. And he said that the atomic technology development and the making of the bomb was an organic necessity. He highlighted on the evil of secrecy. Science obviously should be open, but he commented on the secrecy that was surrounding the development of the bomb, the Manhattan Project itself. Uh, and he knew about the consequences he mentioned, and he said, um, mm, I think that it comes from the fact the secrecy. He referred to the secrecy. I think that it comes from the fact that secrecy strikes at the very root of what science is and what it is for. Uh, then he said some two things, and he said with very high confidence. He had some caution as well. I think that these efforts to diffuse and weaken the nature of the crisis makes it only more dangerous. And there was a grave crisis. He said he was definitely conflicted, and from the speech itself, you know that the man knew that the making of the bomb has been controversial. He uh, rightly expressed that as scientists they were bound to develop the technology, but at the same time he had several cautionary comments. There was no apology, but at the same time caution and a sense of moral responsibility. And he said at one point, the point is that atomic weapons constitute also a field, a new field, and a new opportunity for realizing preconditions. I think when people talk about the fact that this is not only a great peril, but a great hope, this is what they should mean. I do not think they should mean the unknown, those sure value of industrial and scientific virtues of atomic technology, but rather the simple fact that in this field, because it is a threat, because it is a peril, and because it has certain special characteristics to which I will return, there exists a possibility of realizing or beginning to realize those changes which are needed if there is to be any peace. He talked about disarmament, and he talked about disagreements with colleagues, and he talked about several other topics. He said, I think that in order to handle this common problem, there must be a complete sense of community responsibility. He definitely emphasized on the community responsibility of the nations of the world, the communities, the civilizations. He talked about the bonding and dialogue and cooperation between nations and people. He was definitely against clash of interests, and somehow things happened differently. Uh, so basically, the idea of friendship and unity are far from reality. Most of the time, they are not practical, and it's obvious. Mm, he advocated international collaboration. These are the words used in the particular mm, farewell speech. He said the only unique and can be world that is united, and a world in which war will not have occur. Mr. Oppenheimer said, the one point I want to hammer home is what an enormous change in spirit is involved. He talked, as a scientist, he talked about the change in spirit. he talked about change in spirit. Obviously, amongst the scientists, in the scientific community, there was some upliftment of spirit because of the scientific success. And there, he said, there is something more profound than that, the common bond with other men everywhere. My son is here. Hi, say hi. Hi. He's very cute, and he's the apple of my heart. He's the apple of my eyes. So, beta, I'm reviewing. So, uh, he's helping me with the review. Um so, basically, Mr. Oppenheimer said, uh, uh, it is not only among scientists that there are wise people and foolish people. He was concerned. He was definitely careful about having uh, a proper and balanced respect. Scientists are not above people; they are they are within the people. He said the hope that lay in that there would be a new world. He hoped for a new world, definitely. And Mr. Oppenheimer further said, I had for a long time the feeling of the most extreme urgency. The first use of the bomb he addressed. He basically, I'll read out. As I have said, I had for a long time the feeling of the most extreme urgency, and I think maybe there was something right about that. There was a period immediately after the first use of the bomb when it seemed most natural that a clear statement of policy and the initial steps of implementing it should have been made, and it would be wrong for me not to admit that something may have been lost. Yes, there was something lost, and there may be tragedy in that loss. But I think the plain fact is that in the actual world, and within the and with the actual people in it, it has taken time, and it may take longer to understand what this is all about. I think that we have no hope at all if we yield in our belief in the value of science, in the good that it can be to the world, to know about reality, about nature, to attain a gradually greater and greater control of nature, to learn and to teach, to understand. I think if we lose our faith in this, we stop being scientists, we sell our heritage, we lose what we have most of value for in this time of crisis. But there is another thing. We are not only scientists; we are men too. We cannot forget our dependence on our fellow men. I cannot. I mean, not only our material dependence, without which no science would be possible, and without which we could not work. I mean, also our deep moral dependence. In that, the value of science must lie in the world of man. That all our roots lie there. These are the strongest bonds in the world, stronger than those even that bind us to one another. These are the deepest bonds that bind us to our fellow men. After that, he ended the particular speech. So you understand a lot about his mindset uh, during and before the speech, his thought process, his values, his ideals, his stand on nuclear disarmament, his stand on the development of the bomb. The technology itself is not bad. Nuclear technology is required. It's very, very useful. It is a source of energy. It is definitely important for the scientists as well as the other enthusiasts and people. The atomic energy is very important. But at the same time, the weaponization, the building of the weapons of mass destruction is not right. Everyone should understand this. Um, I urge and request everyone to work towards nuclear disarmament, the uh, uh, end of all weapons of mass destruction, the end of all weapons which are meant for humanity and the innocent life on this planet. Please understand, the movie is a very good and extraordinary reminder of the scientific developments as well as the politics of the previous era, about the current issues which are faced by the entire world. The movie is definitely a point of beginning for anyone who wants to show a better world, who wants to show a better work. Several other people will be inspired. Mr. Nolan himself might develop a better product, and best wishes for it. And hope that happens. Hope the distortions do not happen. Hope more such movies come. And congrats to the team of Oppenheimer. I hope that the viewers and my friends have liked this particular review. It is not. It was not just a review. It was an analysis too. It was a dialogue with Mr. Christopher Nolan and his wife, and the production team, and the directorial team, and with the rest of the crew. So basically, I've tried to discuss with all of you about the importance of several developments, several technologies, the care that is required, the extraordinary amount of care is required. You should uh, think about humanity first when you do something. Do it in a very careful manner. Congrats to the scientists who have achieved so much and who have achieved so much, who have done so well to inspire everyone, the academicians, the scientists, engineers, and other enthusiasts, other people. Congrats to the scientists. Hats off to you. Salute. Thank you. And I hope all of you have liked the particular review and the video. If you have liked, if you would like to have more such analysis and have more such reviews in the future, please like this particular video. Please subscribe to this particular channel, and please encourage me. I'll be grateful for your encouragement and for your love and affection and your blessings. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Krishna. Namaste. Bye bye.